Welcome to another edition of the MDM podcast. I'm Mike Hockett, our executive editor. The Specialty Tools and Fasteners Distributors Association, better known as STAFDA, is busy on several event fronts at the moment. It launched a new 2.5-day educational program called Excellence in Distribution that overhauls the University of Innovative Distribution program, which will be held mid-March in Nashville. Meanwhile, STAFDA is finalizing its upcoming annual convention to be held November 2nd through the 5th in San Antonio. STAFDA CEO Georgia Foley is the guest in this podcast episode, and beyond previewing those events, I was particularly interested to get her insights on what the association is seeing and hearing from its members when it comes to current and near-term business conditions. I asked her about any current or potential product demand impacts from the ongoing U.S. factory building boom, as well as the rollout of the government's $1.2 billion infrastructure bill. We touched on what amount of benefit that STAFDA-oriented distributors of power tools, fasteners, safety, construction, and other job site-related products might see from those two fronts going forward. Enjoy. Georgia, welcome to the MDM podcast.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate the opportunity.
I have to ask to start off, as a fellow Packers and Wisconsin Badgers fan, how are you feeling about what should be a very interesting football season coming up with a new quarterback in Green Bay and a new coach here in Madison?
Well, I think it's always exciting when you bring in fresh blood to a team or a company or anything like that. They all have their set of ideas, and if it doesn't work out, as we know with coaches, they're usually out the door. But I think Aaron Rodgers didn't do himself any justice with the Packers because that one year that he just kind of flaked out and didn't come back. And I know to me, that's something that he created on his own. So for him to lead the Packers organization, I think the Packers did what was best for them. And for the Badgers, it's an exciting time. I like to go to Badger games, so we'll see what the new coach brings in for them. So it should be a fun fall, I guess.
Yeah, a lot of question marks on both those sides. So let's dive in here to STAFDA specific questions. And I want to start off asking about STAFDA's new educational initiative, the Excellence in Distribution School, which replaces the University of Innovative Distribution, which was a well-known 4-day management school for professionals in distribution and supply chain, which was held for decades each spring in Indianapolis. And STAFDA co-sponsored UID for 23 years, before the company managing that program terminated their contract earlier this year. And so I was happy to see STAFDA step in and keep that program going by overhauling it into the now 2.5-day Excellence in Distribution School, which will take place March 12th through the 14th of next year at the Hilton Nashville. So Georgia, I know you touched on this in STAFDA's June 8th press release, but can you touch on why STAFDA was compelled to step in and revive this educational program, even if it meant some heavy lifting by you guys at the association?
STAFDA's Excellence in Distribution program really is not replacing UID. UID will continue on, but we're just not sure in what capacity. So there were about 36 associations in the distribution community that supported UID. And the three largest supporters were STAFDA, NAED, the National Association of Electrical Distributors, and ASA, which is American Supply Association. And what we found, and STAFDA is unique in the fact that myself or Kathy Usher would always go to UID every year, whereas my counterparts had never been, or they would send one of their staff members. So we really value the education and the opportunity, and STAFDA always has an icebreaker dinner after their initial reception. We embrace everybody from STAFDA who attends that program. So we really have had a vested interest. But what we've seen in the last 5 years is that it's really gotten away from supply chain. It's really focused on leadership, and as one speaker almost said, it's like airport authors. It's just kind of the soft stuff. It's really gotten away from its core. And that was part of the thing, too, is that because for them, UID to be more encompassing, that's when they changed their name from University of Industrial Distribution to Innovative Distribution. Yeah. And with that change, you brought in a lot of different distributor groups like vets and florists, and that's all good, but it kind of got away from the nuts and bolts of it. And I think by Kathy and I alternating every year down there, we were able to see firsthand and experience firsthand that this just wasn't quite satisfying the need and got away from University of Industrial Distribution's original roots. In the spring, I had talked to my colleagues after we found out that the Washington, D.C. based association firm who was managing AEA, which is kind of the overarching group of University of Innovative Distribution, terminated our contract at the end of February, unbeknownst to us. So anyway, I talked to Tom Neighbor, who then was with NAED, and Mike Aslani, who's with ASA, to perhaps the three of us go in and create our own program. So I have to give Mike at ASA a big shout out on this, because he's the one that really suggested, let's make it less expensive. Let's cut it down to 2.5 days. Indianapolis is okay, but maybe we can get to a city that's more exciting. I suggested Nashville because that's where our convention is going to be next year. And I said, I can maybe try one of our hotel partners for next year and see what we can, for next STAFDA in November of 24. And let's see what we can do maybe for March. So Mike is the one that kind of put the whole thing in place for us. And then, unfortunately, they got cold feet. But STAFDA did all the work anyway. Years ago, we had an excellence in management program that was at both Texas A&M and Purdue University. We ran that from the mid-'80s to 1999. So for us to pull all this together was very, very fast. Most of the speakers that are on UID's curriculum either have spoken at a STAFDA convention or are one of our consultants. So we've got a great relationship with all of them. So what we tried to do to come up with the curriculum for EID is to pull all the top people, the most relevant speakers, have a couple of speakers from UID, but not all, and just kind of mix it all up. So we're really excited about it. It'll roll out in mid-November. We've got all the speakers in place. We just got to work out some of the other bugs before we put up the registration form.
That's great to hear. And after I saw the release that STAFDA was launching excellence in distribution, I just had to wonder what went on behind the scenes for that to happen. So thanks for that detail. And yeah. STAFDA has launched an official website for that program at excelindist.org. I'll put that URL in the recap blog here. But for those, that's where those interested can find a lot more info. And like you mentioned, registration for that program will open mid-November. And I want to have you touch on some insights for that event, but it's great to see that it will include Dirk Beveridge of Unleash WD and We Supply America fame, and B2B sales guru Paul Riley, who I've always enjoyed chatting with. Anything else that you want to add or highlight about what attendees will get out of this first EID program there in Nashville?
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing, too, that I failed to mention is that this program is open to everybody in the industry. This just is not STAFDA specific. It's open to anybody in electrical or HVAC or gas, welding, LBM, whatever. It's open to distributors, manufacturers, rep agents. It's open to end users. It's open to general contractors. We feel that as an educational association, it's our responsibility to continue to promote and educate the industry. And we feel that we've got the cream of the crop of the speakers. And like I said, we overlapped a little bit with UID speakers, but for the most part, we've got some new folks who are going to be joining us. One of the core components that was missing from UID was on HR. And HR is a huge issue right now, whether it has to do with hiring, testing, what to do about letting people go and all that. So we've got our HR consultant, Nancy Combs, who's going to talk about HR hotspots. And all these topics are going to be detailed, but they're generic enough. So you don't have to have, let's say, be someone from HR to attend this program. But that's the most important thing that we want to do is I think of this as kind of like a liberal arts education, is you want people to really get a feel and understanding of a lot of different things that make up what you do on a daily basis. We've got customer service was missing from UID. So we've got Jeannie Hurlbert, who works with STAFDA, who's going to be doing a program on concierge customer service. We've also got Mike Foster, who's done work for STAFDA in the past, who's going to be talking about AI. That's a hot topic, whether you like it or not, or understand it or not. You're going to have to understand it to relate to it. So he's going to be talking about that. A guy named Mike Staver, who we've used in the past, is going to be addressing how to be an influencer in any market. One of the big things that has been dropped from UID is on branch management. That's a huge thing. So we've got Jim Ambrose, who's going to come in and talk about the 5 fundamentals of branch management. And then we found a couple new speakers. One is Kimberly Reuter, who's going to talk about supply chain and the customer experience. Another one is Alan Ambling, who's going to talk about organizational velocity. And Jamie Turner, who's done work with us before on intentional communication, and Ken Novak on digital transformations for beginners. So when I was at UID this past March, I talked to Dirk Beveridge, who will also be one of our speakers this fall down in San Antonio. But he said the big thing about UID is, he said there's no beginning and there's no close. There's nothing to kind of set the stage like a general session. So he's going to be doing a program for us to open the whole thing called Our Noble Calling of Distribution. He's going to set the stage, and then at the end, we're going to have a panel that's going to talk about the future of distribution. And it's going to include AI, it's going to include what the trends are in our industry. So that'll give a nice balance to the beginning, in addition to these programs in the middle. So I think the program is going to be varied and the speakers are going to be terrific. We're excited.
That's great. And we will get to the upcoming STAFDA convention in a bit, but first, I'd like to get your insights on the current economic situation, which is always a topic of conversation out there, and what the demand outlook is there for the common product categories across STAFDA's membership, which includes power tools, hand tools, tool storage, fasteners, safety products, and basically anything that supports job sites. So overall, what is the sentiment that you're hearing or seeing from the association's member base in terms of what demand is looking like, or the confidence in the industrial supply and construction trade markets in terms of just business conditions out there?
Well, in our last trade news, we had reports from our distributors, and our distributors are from 9 different regions in the US, and then we also have one out of Canada. So 10 different perspectives on what's happening out there in the industry right now. And I think a lot of it is, I hate the phrase because it's been used so many times, but cautious optimism. They are seeing a slowdown, and again, it has to do with certain pockets, but obviously rising interest rates is a concern. Some projects are being delayed because of either labor shortages or what's going to happen. And one of the reports that I read every month is a Dodge report on just a capsule of what's happened. And the numbers that they share are very similar to what our distributors are reporting as well. So projects are still there, but there's just beginning to be a little bit more of a slowdown. I know there's talks of a recession, and that was supposed to start last year, and then it was supposed to happen this year. And when I take a look at Alan Ballou's forecast from most recently, now it's projected to 24, and he says it's going to be mild. So I think everybody's kind of anticipating for the future, but there certainly has been a slowdown in the market.
Certainly, I also keep hearing that cautious optimism phrase out there. And it does seem that the majority of economic forecasts out there for any term of the major slowdown that is supposed to be coming, it does seem to keep pushing further out. And it might just be showing that distribution is, industrial markets are a little more resilient than maybe other people thought that they were. Definitely looking forward to Alan Bolio's his economic outlook there at STAFDA. And on that note, we are seeing more and more reports of how U.S. factory construction spending in 2023 has been up between 70 to 80% compared to a year earlier. And I have to think that bodes well for STAFDA members whose products go into supporting large capital projects like these. So just any thoughts on the current factory building boom going on and how it might be currently benefiting STAFDA members or might in the near future?
Well, I think the one thing about STAFDA distributors is that they're pretty nimble, and they keep on top of any type of projects that are coming online or that are online and they can service. So I don't see the factory building boom any different than a lot of different markets that our members are involved with. So I think as long as that continues to bode well for us. And again, the thing about STAFDA members is they serve so many different markets. So if something's a little bit soft, they can focus on something else. So if their residential is a little soft right now, so if they're focusing on the factory building boom, then power to them. So I think that's always kind of the ebb and tide that you see with our members. So I'm proud of the group that I get to represent because they're savvy entrepreneurs.
And I know that group is paying attention to funds that are being distributed from the government's $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill that was passed in late 2021. And I think I saw that 299 billion of that has been allocated so far as of about mid 2023 here. Well, most of it is expected to be rolled out in 2024 and 2025. So what are you hearing from STAFDA members as far as what kind of positive impacts that infrastructure spending will have on the demand for industrial tools and equipment that will inevitably be needed to support America's or improving America's roads, bridges, highways, and other infrastructure?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I'm hearing from our members is that they don't understand it. There's so many different components to this bill. It's like,
yeah,
where do you start? How do you figure this out? How do you go after business? How does all this happen? And earlier this month, or last month, I should say, we had an infrastructure expert named Lauren Smith do a program for us, a webinar for us, that was highly attended. But it talks about the Infrastructure Act update, how to go after business, what they're looking for, the paperwork, the whole shebang. And because it's such a critical issue to our members and to the industry at large, we have invited Lauren to give that same program and continue to expand on it at our Excellence in Distribution next March in Nashville. So there will be an hour-and-a-half program dedicated just to that. So, and it's going to be a give and take where members can, or attendees rather, can just ask questions and get answers. But Lauren is extremely smart. All of our webinars are archived, so members can have access to that anytime in the members only section of our website. But for anybody who really is involved with infrastructure or even thinking about it, Lauren is definitely the guy. So we're pretty happy to get him on the program for EID next March. But I'd say that's kind of the biggest thing right now. Is members are trying to figure out there's so much stuff that's so big. How do I grasp it? So that's what we're trying to provide, is that knowledge and a starting point.
Yeah, it's one thing to see kind of all these projected funds that are expected to come out of the infrastructure bill, but it's not just a complete free-for-all out there. There is processes that distributors and suppliers have to go through to take advantage of that. So I'm glad you touched on that. Sure. Turning towards the fall, I'm sure that the STAFDA team is all hands on deck right now for the upcoming annual convention, which is set for November 5th through the 7th in downtown San Antonio, which is one city I've never been to, but is in the regular convention circuit. But somehow I've just never been able to make a stop down there. But all I hear is that it's a lot of fun in San Antonio. And while we don't have time to do a full preview of the entire convention here, I will mention that just the first day of the agenda includes 4 educational workshops that I'm looking forward to. There's a next gen luncheon, a women in distribution luncheon, and an emerging leaders forum. And the convention has always had a great trade show, and day 3 includes the, as we mentioned, ever popular Alan Bolio to give his latest economic update. And that's just a handful of the highlights that attendees can expect. So besides those items, I would love to get your take on what you're looking forward to at this year's STAFDA convention and just some of what attendees can expect.
Sure. So 2 of the programs that are new for us this year is the Women in Distribution. And last year I had the opportunity to go to several industry buying group meetings, and they all have a program for women. So we're going to do a luncheon, and we're bringing in a speaker that we used in 2019. Her name's JJ DiGeronimo. And she's a real fireball, but she's going to talk specifically about women in any kind of industry and how to assert yourself and the networking aspect of things. So we're excited to have her on the program. And then we've got a lot of generational transitions, people retiring and passing it on either to a family member or to a key employee. So this Emerging Leaders Forum is really designed for, I'd say, up-and-comers, maybe those in their 40s who are moving up the ladder to take over management. And a gentleman named Tom Singer will be doing that program for us. And that's kind of one of his specialties. So we're happy about that. And one of the things that we've been introducing or been having for the last several years is bringing in college students. Everybody complains about, I can't hire anybody, and who's going to be interested in our industry. But STAFDA works with 6 colleges, and there are actually 60 out there. But we've got the buy-in of 6, definitely, including Texas A&M, Purdue University, Marquette, East Carolina, and then Nebraska, Lincoln, and Nebraska Kearney. And but they all promote it. They send the cream of the crop of their students to our convention who have the opportunity to participate in all our programs. They have speed interviewing opportunities with members who are looking for hiring or to hire somebody, or even internships. These are all just really top kids. And what we started last year was a student competition, and we're gonna further that this year because now we've got international buy-in. There's an organization based in the Netherlands that kind of is the administrator of this program that was started through the University of Nebraska, Lincoln, last year in San Diego. So our professor contact there is kind of taking it up a notch, but the students are given a fictitious manufacturer who needs to be turned around, and the students are assigned to come up with a turnaround plan for operations, sales, distribution, finance, the works. And the students present their pitch to each of the other groups, the other student groups, and then they have vote on who's the best. And then we, like last year, we gave them an award during our general session. But this year, it's going to be the same concept, but whoever comes out on top is going to have an opportunity to be involved in an international competition in the Netherlands. So we're really excited about it. I mean, this continues to grow and morph, and I'm grateful for the support of the schools that we have. We continue to recruit new schools. Our college partners are going after some other schools that aren't in our current database who could benefit from this. So that program will be, the competition will be Sunday morning, and then the winner will be announced Monday during our general session. So that's something. And again, we're trying to, we've got, there's so many aspects, but I mean, for a company who's looking to hire, I mean, interview these kids. They are smart, they're savvy, they're cream of the crop, and they're eager. And it doesn't matter if you're a distributor, manufacturer, or rep agent, they're looking to get into our industry, and they're excited about it.
Well, it definitely sounds like there's going to be something for everyone there at the STAFDA convention. And it's great to see what you guys are doing especially on the next gen and on the women in the industry side, just because we've seen, across any association, any industry, there is a major appetite for both of those avenues, just given where the labor situation, where the demographic situation is at. So great to see that you guys are, reflecting that at the convention as well.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And then I saw that a couple of months ago, STAFDA launched its own YouTube channel, which already has about a dozen videos on there that promote what STAFDA is doing and shows highlights from its member companies. Can you touch on the purpose of this new YouTube channel and just a little bit about what viewers can expect to see on there?
Well, we're trying to keep current with everybody else. So yes, we did launch a YouTube channel, and we're unfortunately the gal who was working for us was working remotely, and it didn't work out. So we're in the process of hiring somebody else. But in the meantime, hopefully tomorrow we'll have the new person on deck. But we're hoping to expand that and just continue to push the limit. I mean, social media is where it's at. STAFDA members are scaling down as far as age. I mean, most of the group now is between 35 and 45. So everybody wants everything instant. And we're going to just continue to build all of our social media platforms. So yeah, but thanks for noticing that. I appreciate it. But yeah, we're going to continue to ratchet it up now that we're going to get somebody else on deck.
Yeah,
in the office anyway.
Yeah, I appreciated that one of those videos was a STAFDA headquarters tour. So it showed some behind the scenes of here's what the STAFDA office looks like. And it's just nice to put more of a face and almost a personality behind what the association is, besides people just seeing you guys at the convention, seeing the press releases you guys are putting out and just interactions. But it's nice to just see those behind the scenes elements like that. So and I know STAFDA has always been putting out video, but I assume that channel is going to be a nice place to host it all for everyone to see at any time. And for anyone interested, all you have to do on YouTube is search STAFDA, and it should be the first result that pops up. I think that's the way it worked for me there. And then just to finish with, I know it happened back at the start of this year in 2023, but STAFDA launched its new logo this past January, which signaled the retirement of the Stan the STAFDA Man logo that had been in use since the 1970s. But the new logo is fairly similar. It uses a similar triangle logo now featuring Stan Jr. I was hoping you could quickly touch on, why STAFDA was compelled to refresh that logo and just a little bit of why that change was made.
Well, just like everything, we got to keep current with the times, and a lot of associations have gone through different logo iterations. So it was time that Stan got some Botox. And so we got a younger Stan, a fresh face. And credit goes to David Saunders, who's with Industrial Products Limited out of New Orleans. David's boss, Phil Sermonaro, is on our board of directors. And Phil said to me in November, hey, I've got a talented industrial designer. Do you mind if he takes a shot at updating Stan? And I said, no, go ahead, go for it. And so we had a couple of little changes, but for the most part, David nailed it. And so we're excited about it. And then we added a tagline about the construction and industrial leader. So we're trying to use the new Stan wherever possible while kind of phasing out the old Stan on envelopes and some other things. But I think it's a fresh, crisp look, and we've gotten some really great feedback on it. So thank you for noticing. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's similar to the old Stan the Man logo. There's the elements of it there, but it definitely has a more modern, sleek look to it. So it looks great. So yeah, a lot of new stuff going on at STAFDA with the excellence in distribution. A lot of new content coming up at the STAFDA convention. And I'm glad we were able to recap almost all of that here. So, Georgia, that's all I had for you today on the MDM podcast. And thanks for joining. And I look forward to seeing you guys there in San Antonio.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.